Hi, it's Princess of Packages here again. Today I've got some calligraphy pens. I've got two types. I've got the barrel with the ink cartridge. So I'll open that up and show you how to put one of those together. And I've got the nibs, free form nibs that you place in a holder and use with the dipping ink. So I'll open those up and I will show you how to prime them before you start calligraphy, because they don't work unless they're primed, but nobody tells you that. So let's get into it. I hope I can get into it without making too much of a mess of the box. So these are the Panache Master Calligraphy set with 5 nibs, 2 pens and 8 ink cartridges. So we get a lid and a barrel, and it says, I'll go for the purple ink. I think I've got black, purple, and looks like 2 different blues. So we'll give the purple a go. So it says place 2 cartridges in the barrel as illustrated. Okay, so one in that way and one in that way. Oh, okay, so it's got the length. Okay, and then we take whichever nib we like the look of. They come in different sizes, the nibs. So we've got let's see if I can get them out. Is it written on the nib? No, it's not. I thought it would be. There's a 0.5, a 1 mil, a 1.5, broad 2.5, and a scroll 2.5. So I'm guessing this is the scroll 2.5. It just says number 6, but it doesn't say anything else. So this will be the 0.5 anyway. So I might try the 1.5 medium. Ooh. It says medium. Medium made in England, I think it says. I'd need a magnifying glass to read that. So I've got 2 cartridges in my barrel. Screw barrel into nib. Okay. Okay. Select paper, and I do have some calligraphy paper here. I'll just get that out of the book. Calligraphy paper suitable for calligraphy, pen and brushwork. It says A4. So I haven't tried this paper before, so we'll give it a go. Right, now it says screw barrel, select paper, make practice strokes down and across the page. And it says it should take about 60 seconds to come through. Oh, there we go. Oh, that's flowing really nicely. And you can download worksheets that give you different exercises and things to do that will help you with your strokes. And I haven't tried any, but I am going to download some and just have a play with them so that you get the hang of how the pen moves, and it is really, really worthwhile to practice. So that is working really nicely, and that's a really pretty colour. Now the other pens require priming, so this is a bit more involved. There are 5 ways that I've heard of to prime your nibs. One of them is sticking them in a potato for 15 minutes. No more than 15 minutes because they will rust. So you do have to take a bit of time to actually look after your nibs. But it is really important to prime them, because if they're not primed, then they won't hold ink, which can be a bit of a problem. You'll find you just won't get the ink onto the paper if they're not primed. So it'll be interesting to see if my instruction booklet mentions anything about priming. I've got them sealed in here really well. Ooh. Really well. Okay. Ooh. So these are the Speedball pens, and what have they done? Gee, gosh, they've glued that down well. I don't know if I can open my instructions without ripping them. Ooh. Yeah, the other way you can prime your nibs is with warm soapy water and a toothbrush. You can use nail polish remover, but it's not the best method. Like I said, a potato for 15 minutes. But the method I'm going for today is fire. I'm going to burn them. So I've got simple techniques, controlled lines, wavy lines. Does it say anything about holding the pen, moving the pen? The same thing. For best results, to load pen with ink, carefully dip. Point deep enough into the ink to fill pen reservoir. When they're talking about the reservoir, they're talking about this bit up here. I don't know if you can see that up here. Most people only dip the end of the nib in, but you have to actually dip all the way up, and it will hold a lot more ink, and you'll find you won't re-dip so often. So that's what they're talking about when they're talking about the reservoir. Reservoir. Wipe underside of the point on ink bottle to remove excess ink. Clean the pen point with Speedball pen cleaner or hot water after every use. It's really important to clean them because the ink will dry up in between the tines of the nib. See how, I don't know if you can see, it splits apart, and it will dry up in there and cake and hold it shut. So then you won't be able to use it properly. So that will be a problem. See if I can get one. You see how they come apart? So the ink will dry up and it will stick, so they won't work properly. So you have to wash them after every use. And then the guide to lettering. So let's get on to priming. I've got myself a lighter, and you also have 2 holders. So this one already has a nib in it. Oh, a very, very fine nib by the look of it. So we'll give that a go. So you should just have a flame and pass it over for a few seconds, because the nibs come with oil on them, which is great for the nibs, but it stops them in storage, but it prevents the ink from holding on to the ink. So, ooh, it's a broad one, okay. And be very careful not to burn yourself. So you just have to burn off the oil or wash it off, whatever method you choose. So I'll give all of these a go. I've got 9 nibs here, so it'll take me a little while. And by the time I get to the end, the first one should be good to go. So just a couple of seconds should be fine. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Some people like to hold them with tweezers, but I haven't burnt myself yet, touch wood. I've only got 1 more to go. 9. So step my lighter back up out of the way. So let's see. I have some ink here. It is Indian ink, 1.05 fluid ounces, and it's Senalia, and I believe it's a black ink. So we'll see how we go. I'll open that up. It's very, very black. Okay, so this is the reservoir they're talking about. So you fill it up down to there. Touch the underside and see how it's still held in the reservoir. So now I should be able to use them. This is a really, really fine nib. The pens that hold ink in the chamber, the fountain pen, they feel a lot more like using a normal pen. This one's more scratchy, and I would recommend getting a sheet so that you can practice all the different strokes. And you can see it actually holds quite a lot of ink. So you can see actually how much ink it has held. Now you should, oh, it's a bit stiff. That should come out of there. No. Okay, let's try the widest one. So it should, see it's got this ring, so it should just slide in there, which it does nicely all the way in. I've got my reservoir, so I should dip into there, tap, this is much smoother to use. This is much easier to do the swirls with and holds a lot more ink. It does take a bit of practice to hold the pen on the right angle, but you can see I've only dipped once and this pen is still going. This is a B5 nib, which is still holding ink. You can see you can write for quite a while with these nibs if you've dipped them in properly. It's just starting to run out of ink now. So I've got some water here, just rinse off the ink. I've got some paper towel. Gosh, they're very stiff to pull back out. Okay, so I will test all of these nibs. I can't get this one in now. It is a bit fiddly. But I don't know if that's because it's new or whether they're always going to be this tight. I can't get that one in any further. Okay. It's not in as far as I'd like, but I can't do anything about it at the moment, so I'll just much scratchier than the other nib. And you might find you prefer one nib over another. This one certainly seems to be scraping across the paper, whereas the B5 nib didn't. Still holding a lot of ink though, not as much as the other one. I'll rinse that one out. And depending on what you want to do will determine which nibs you need as well, whether you're doing fine work or more broad strokes. Okay, this one's gone in much easier. Okay, still not quite in. Oh, there we go. That's all the way in. Just make sure you fill all the way to the reservoir. And make sure you do rinse them out and dry them really well when you're finished using them. You might want to find a proper case to keep them in, because I don't know that the plastic containers are going to be great. So not going to come off now. Paper towel that I've been blotting them on. Ah, that's easier. Right. So I've tried 3. Takes a while to get used to the pressure. Each nib requires a different amount of pressure to use. And I am by no means an expert at this, but it's certainly fun to play around with and experiment with and just see what you like. And they really, it's amazing how much ink they hold. I'm surprised. I really thought I'd have to re-dip more. Rinse that out. My water is going a really nice grey colour. So some of them slot in so easily. actually quite restful to just sit here and use these pens. It's almost meditative. And the more you do it, the more you'll get to know which nibs you like and which nibs you don't like so much, and which nibs do what. So you'll get better at choosing which nib you want to use or will be right for what you want to do. It does have C4. This one says C4, B-1. What's this one say? B5. So they do have things written on them, but it doesn't seem to be any consistent. I'm sure there is consistent sizing, but I'm sure you'll learn by looking at them and using them which nib you want to use. It's all trial and error, really. And A for a while. So you can see I've still only dipped this nib once and it's still going. It's starting to grey off, but it's not as black, but it's still writing without breaking up or getting too scratchy. So you can actually use them for quite a long time. And I know the India inks do quite a lot of colours. I know you can get black, blue, red, yellow, green, purple. I'm sure you can get, I don't know if you can get any more colours, but you can certainly get a wide range of the ink. I know definitely in the Indian inks, but I know you can certainly play around with different oil inks and colours and brands and things, so you can actually get some quite nice writing effects, or even drawing if you wanted to utilise this for drawing. But it's all about time, practice, patience, and priming your nibs. It's really, really important to prime your nib, or the ink just won't stick to it and you'll have heaps of trouble. I think I've only got one more nib left to go, which is a really, really broad, wide nib, and it actually has two, I don't know if you can see that, it's got two splits in it, so it divides into three. They actually spread out quite far. So let's give it a go. Doesn't hold ink for as long because it's so wide. It seems to put a lot, well, it puts a lot more ink on the paper. As you would expect. It's actually nicer to use than I thought it would be. Actually really nice to use. And the handles are actually really nice to hold too. They're a nice shape and a nice size, and they're actually quite smooth, so they're quite nice to hold. Let's see if I can get this one. Does this one come out, or is it solid? Nope. That one must stay in there. That one, I might try this one. Try this one again. This doesn't hold as much ink, which is fine because it's so tiny. Certainly need a lot more pressure with the broader nibs than you do with the finer nibs. And as you can see, my water's gone quite dark. So I'll put my lid back on the ink so I don't spill it everywhere and make a huge mess. So, and the purple, it's definitely the most like writing with a normal pen, but you do require a little bit more pressure. But it's all a practice thing and you'll get used to doing it. So I hope you understand now the importance of priming your nibs and practicing. I'll have a bit more of a practice with these and come back with a better tutorial. Thanks for watching. Bye.